Okay, let's go ahead and create a new role inside of QuickBooks Online Advanced. So if we come up here to Settings and we go to Manage Users, then of course we have the roles list here. Now they have some preset roles that we can use as baseline, or we can add a new role. So you can edit these, right, if you want to, because they do have some nice words down below and good names. But I'm going to go ahead and create my own from scratch. So when I go ahead and say Add Role here, now we're going to go down the list, and I'm going to talk to you about all the different criteria because there's a lot of ifs and then. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and check off sales. All right, so right away I get a warning. There's going to be a lot of warnings throughout this. Only full access is available. We're working on enabling more permissions. Permissions like view only, create only, and others won't be possible. So we see these boxes, view, create, edit, delete. This is telling us that this is in the product roadmap, but it's not there right now. Okay, so you cannot check those. See how they're kind of grayed out, but these ones are green. You can check full access. The other thing to note is right away, this is kind of cool. Right away, it gives you an error. Hey, there is another role that exists that is exactly what you have marked here. So maybe it's not good to duplicate it. Go back to your roles list and just use the one that already exists. So a couple things there. That's pretty cool though, so you don't duplicate roles and have a whole bunch of extra things on your list. So I'm going to go ahead and select two locations. Let's say Austin inside of Texas, obviously. Now it doesn't give me that error because I don't have any other sales roles that include Austin, Texas. All right, I want to highlight over here because these information things are very important when you're dealing with any online product, right? The description, information fields that they give you. So it says here, and I have to highlight it a couple times, so I apologize. It says here, gives access to invoice. Oh, there's invoice. Receive payment, not one of the options down here. Estimate, credit memo, sales receipt, refund receipt, delayed credit, and delayed charge. So there are a lot of things that it gives access to that you're not seeing on this list. You just want to be aware. And same when we go down here, expenses, check, bill, purchase order, not on the list. Vendor credit, credit card credit, which is weird because credit card charge isn't on this list, but it's also included in here. So just be aware and always highlight over these informational things when you are setting up for the first time. Okay, so I'm going to select sales, and I'm going to say, I'm not going to give them access to estimates because we don't use estimates, so I can remove that. So it's an all or nothing. It's yes or no. So they have access to invoices, yes or no. Access to estimates, yes or no. But you can tell in the future state that they're working on getting view, only, create, edit, and delete rights for these types of transactions. Okay, so let's move down to expenses. Now is where it gets a little tricky. So if I check off expenses, see what it says. Adding this permission to this role will give access to all locations as well. Would you like to continue? So even though I selected only Austin, Texas up top here, now once I check off expense access, then they automatically have access to all locations. Okay, that's in the current state. So again, just things to be aware of. If I uncheck this, now I can select locations. Once I check this, well, see, it says I have to select at least one. Once I check this, then it doesn't allow me to select locations anymore. So if you wanted somebody to have access to bills and you wanted them to have access to, Austin, Texas only, you might have to do some dual roles, but giving them access to bills will give them access to all locations. So it doesn't really matter. Okay, coming down to banking. Okay, so this is check this off. Again, we get an error, not error, but like an information. In order to give all banking access, you need to give access to expenses and sales. So if I had not chosen to give access to sales or expenses, and I came down here and just wanted to give banking access, it would automatically give them access to expenses and sales. So they all go hand in hand. Okay, so again, you only have full access here when I select banking. I'm sorry. When I uncheck this, notice how when I check this, they turn out gray in the expenses section, so I can't even check things off up here. But I only have full access for bank deposits. That's the only one I have full access for. Okay. and I can't do create, modify, delete. Coming down below here, we have inventory. So when we check off the inventory section, you're giving them access to things like setting up inventory items, things like being able to do inventory adjustments. So again, if we give them full access here, it doesn't give you any warnings, but you can. And then workers, you're giving them access to payroll, workers' compensation, and benefits. So again, it's all or nothing. And then with workers, expenses are required, right? So if you check this one off, you have to check off expenses. When we come down here to the report section, so in this section what it's saying is we have sales and customer access to those reports, and we'll take a look at what that means in a second, or expenses and vendors access. And then come down even further, we have account management, company information. You can give them full access to edit the company's information, like the company address, the tax ID number, the email address that is linked to the company. You can also give them access to a subscription, okay? So if they give full access to the subscription, or can they only view the subscription? It looks like you have that option because you have two boxes here, but you actually can give them, you can give them view access in here, but you can also give them full access. So this is the only one that has multiple check boxes. Why they'd want to maybe be able to view the subscription is to see how many users they have left to add or something along those lines. Okay. Now notice on my screen, before I move along, I don't have a next button or anything like that. Okay, so one of the things I learned is if you do not see a progress forward button in QuickBooks Online, you have to minimize so that you can see that next button. It's just hiding. It's just hiding. So once I kind of go out of full screen mode, then it pops up here and I can select next. So what's this role called? My special role. And then you can put in that extra special description. Okay, what you should be putting in here is maybe who should get this type of role, right? So you can be more defined. And then you can say preview role, which will allow you to come in here and see like what does the role do, right? So I can say, all right, I'm now logged in and testing as somebody in my special role. I can click through all the things. Okay. Now in the report section, you can see here, since we checked off sales and customers, this is what they're talking about. When you give access to reports for sales and customers or expenses and vendors, what it's giving access to is the general category of reports. So sales and customers, all reports within this category, they would have access to. And then notice I have employees because I have payroll, but I actually don't have vendors and expenses reports because I didn't check that one off. But again, when you go into the reports and you see the section called expenses and vendors, they would have access to all of those reports. So it's by category of reports that they would have access to. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and go back out of here. Pretty cool that we can test it out and try things out if we needed to. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Okay, so now I've created my special role. When I come over here to my roles list, I can go in and look at this role, edit it if I needed to, make any modifications, and I've set up a new role.